to the Pink Floyd!
The Pink Floyd won't start before you all sit down there. Please sit down.
David Gilmour, guitariste et chef de Pink Floyd, avec Rick Wright, organiste, Roger Waters, bassiste, et Nick Mason, batteur.
If I can remember what it was that we were going to play next, I'd tell you, but I can't. So,
Hello and welcome to the latest edition of the Fingal's Cave podcast. My name is Kyle Viveros. Tonight's conversation is part 2 of stories from Mick the Hat's lifelong journey with Pink Floyd, continuing from when the wall came crashing down for the final time at Earl's Court in 1981. Over to Ian Preston and Mick the Hat.
After the last wall gig at Earl's Court, you kind of, I think I remember, we thought that was it. That was the last Floyd gig, forever. And so, he come up with the final cut, which gave us even more reason to think it was the last end of the Floyd, really, because it was a Roger Waters.
Hint in the title as well.
Yeah.
And
it was a Roger Waters solo album, as pretty much, But, 1984, I'm coming out with the Pros and Cons, and they still were, Pink Floyd was still about then as such, It was like, that was the best thing you could get from the Floyd or whatever in that time, And the Pros and Cons tour, which, as you know, I don't know if I mentioned it before about the Pros and Cons and the wall, how they took it, people know, to Waters. Waters took it to the band, both things, and said, we can do one or the other. Which one? Because, when they were having the money problems and things, because the guy had run off with all the money in the late 70s. And the only reason they chose the wall as such at the time was because as a double album, it would yield more money.
I didn't know that.
No, okay. And the other thing he stipulated is that they'll only get either of these things if Rick is out of the band,
Really?
Yeah. So, that was the deal. And so the wall was the thing in the end, and Rick played on the wall, of course, as a session musician, which nobody knew at the time outside of the band. And that.
Why was he so keen to get him out?
Well, that he was. I think we mentioned about. Rick had his problems in the sort of mid to late 70s. With substances, and Roger Waters was, as he said many a time, thinks Pink Floyd are pretty much near finished, and he felt that Rick wasn't contributing, and it was true to some degree, but it's like the football manager in a way. Some people you need to put your arm around them and say, look, come on, we can do it, this and that. Others think if you shout at someone and that, they'll respond. And I think Roger Waters, of course, is the one who shouts at someone and wants them to respond, when Rick Wright was someone who needed an arm around them.
Yeah.
And therefore, I think, he was almost like, first he wants Rick out, then he was going to start on Nick Mason to a degree, and of course it ruins their sort of confidence, doesn't it? Somebody, when it came to the final cut, I think Nick Mason was barely on it as the drummer, and then what we're going to get Dave Gilmour next after that, although it didn't come to that. But what I'm saying is that when it came to final cut, and then he did his Pros and Cons tour. The Pros and Cons was pretty much on the level of the wall in terms of the production and everything. It was a fantastic tour with different musicians of the Floyd, not the Floyd, of course, but he had Clapton on guitar on the first tour. And
what was it like seeing, sorry to interrupt, what was it like seeing Clapton on stage with Roger Waters? Were all eyes on Clapton?
No,
Not at all.
I mean, some people would say even that it was the wrong choice as a, you know, to
Too big a name.
for the music, but well, he needed that, because the Pros and Cons, which was a expensive production, like I say, it was like a wall with, you know, the films, animation, everything was on the level of that. He needed to bring the people in, which became a bigger problem. I don't know if you know much about the KAOS tour later, the one that was 2 years after that, which was a great album and a great tour, but he didn't even sell out in certain places. And,
it was
you
a
know,
problem,
they had to
wasn't
cancel.
it? Yeah.
But he didn't sell out. Yeah, the Pros and Cons, which sold out Earl's Court 2 nights at the time, which was, you know, it's not like these days where Oasis and Coldplay can play, you know, 10 nights at Wembley Stadium. In those days, if you sold out 2-3 nights at Earl's Court, you were doing well, So he could sell the Pros and Cons, Earl's Court, fine, and Paris and Zurich and places, yet for some reason he couldn't sell out the Westfalenhalle in Dortmund, not even near, and 1 or 2 other places in Germany, and they cancelled the shows, So, you know, that was obviously difficult for him. That's even with Eric Clapton in the band,
Did you follow a lot of those shows
yourself?
yourself?
I did. That's why I'm talking about them as being really great, actually, because the other thing was the first set was chance to see some of the old Floyd stuff again, and it started with Set the Controls, which was
Welcome
a great...
to the Machine was there as well, wasn't it?
Yeah. And Money, I think he did one track off. He did one track off The Gunner's Dream, or Final Cut, which, you know, when I hear it on the album, I'd think, you know, so. But when you saw all these sort of things off the Final Cut, went with the films and that live, really strong, So you got that first set with the old Floyd stuff, which was great to see again, the bits and pieces, and then the second set was the Pros and Cons, which was like I say, an elaborate production and great on the stage, bit like The Wall in that you listen to it on the record or on whatever medium, and it's not, you know, Floyd classic stuff, but with the live show together, fantastic.
More of a visual experience.
Which, you know, Waters was very much into that, you know, from The Wall onwards, really. I mean, that was his thing, even before The Wall. I mean, bringing the films in with animals and everything, and
been steadily heading in that direction, hadn't he?
And good for it, really, because, you know, you needed some more things. I mean, much as I'd love to still see Banging the Gong.
Yes.
And stuff, which, but I mean, he wasn't going to do that anymore, so, you know, it was more a modern thing with video coming in at the time as well. So...
and did you tape those shows?
Yeah, I went to the first night or two. There were some shows in Stockholm, I think, and at Rotterdam I didn't go to. Then I went to the 2 nights in Earl's Court, 2 nights in Birmingham NEC. And tell you a funny story about the NEC one. Then I went to then I think it was Paris and Zurich after that. And when we went to the second night in Birmingham NEC, Rolf came over from Germany to a couple of those shows, I think. And when I was driving back down the M1, stopped at Watford Gap, and did I tell you this story before?
No, you didn't. No.
Stopped at Watford Gap, and we went in to have a coffee and stuff, and we were sort of queuing up with our things at 1 a.m, and I suddenly noticed who's ahead of us in the queue. Roger Waters, Eric Clapton, Mel Collins, the whole band are there, same thing. And, you know, Rolf was a funny guy in terms of, like, very nervous sort of, you know, and when I tapped him on his shoulder and said, "Oh, look who's here, Rolf," and he literally threw his tray, he just thing and run out, because he couldn't take it being so
it's just
near.
overwhelming.
Yeah, and I mean, we were being stupid. We sat behind them, I remember, and I was going on about, marmalade. I like marmalade, all that, because I think we were a bit happy from the show, yeah.
Yeah.
But I was thinking about some other in Paris. I think it was in Paris. I got lost. I managed to get a pass for most of the shows, so I could go into the sound checks.
What, a security pass?
Yeah.
Or, yeah.
Well, I had a, Gary. He used to work for Brockham and that. Yeah. I think he used to be really great in terms of like, if I ever wanted to take my machine in, I'd leave it with him inside and I'd come in then and he'd have it there. But
they were the merch people, weren't
yeah,
they? Yeah.
And somehow I got introduced to this guy who did food. I think his main thing, he was called Dean Carter actually. I shouldn't mention, maybe, but anyhow, not that he did anything wrong, but his main thing was selling food at concerts, yeah. But I think he also worked for the merchandising people. And he had a big do on this tour, and he gave me a thing for all the shows. But I had to go every show and find him first, and then he'd give me a thing for each show, yeah, which was great. And in Paris, I got Bercy. It's like a bit like the Albert Hall. It's all got these little round sort of things that you can get lost a bit. Yeah. And I was wandering around in the afternoon there and got completely lost, and I opened this door and Eric Clapton sitting there in his underpants going, "You the F are you?" to me, and I said, "Sorry," closed the door and walked off, yeah. At Zurich, I remember as well, staying in Freiburg on one of my trips on the way
not
there.
Too far away.
Yeah, and stayed a night with Ren at a place, and I had my contact lenses, right? So I forgot my contact lens containers, and before I went to sleep, I took one eye in a tissue on the right and one on the left, right? And left them behind the bed or whatever. So I wake up in the next day when we went to go to the gig, and I said, "What's all this rubbish paper?" I threw it in the toilet. Oh. A minute later, I realised those are my eyes in there. And I'm not going to be able to drive down to Switzerland, without the...
No.
Yeah. And, it's 1984, so how am I going to get... I can't get anything in an hour or two like that.
No, not abroad.
So, well, I thought certainly not in England, but so Ren said, "No, I know an optician, let's try something." So we went down to this optician in the afternoon already, and he managed to make me some glasses in about 2 hours,
Fantastic.
Which was amazing in those days, I tell you. So that got us out. I mean, we'd already fished around in the toilet for 10 minutes, which wasn't very nice.
Not going to work.
Gave up with that, yeah. So we went to the gig in Zurich, which was great, and we had a good time after, but we went for a meal. Lots of people from... Gary was working there, I think. He came down with us. But anyhow, when we went back to Germany in the night, we ran out of petrol virtually at this... There was... these service stations all closed, but you could get petrol if you had the right card or something again. Yeah. We were stuck at this one petrol station in the middle of nowhere at 3 a.m, and knowing that we had about 3 miles left in the tank, and we had to wait for somebody to come along who could we'd give him cash or something, and then he would let us use his card for the petrol. So, that was another thing I can remember from that crazy European tap of the pros and cons.
So getting in there early yourself with your pass, did you record some of the rehearsals?
I did record some sound checks, definitely, yeah. And I later on, I got to know really well these guys from Israel, who might not be so nice to at the moment, but
no.
I was really big friends at the time with this band Siam, who were the biggest group in Israel at the time, and they were trying to make it in England, and I was sort of their manager for a while they were here, and we got on really great at the time, and this girl who's a friend of theirs was a good friend of mine. That's how I got to know them all. But through her, and then I met this guy Bambi, who was the biggest very big light guy in Israel, and in fact I didn't realise also he was doing rock groups in England, America, and I found out was doing the Waters tour, the Pros and Cons, only afterwards, and he gave me a soundboard from Paris, and he had loads of, he used to take a lot of photographs to get the stage thing right, loads of photos, before the show from the group and everybody. And there's something else I got, trying to remember from him that was really useful. I don't know, you know this tape that's about, there's probably, I gave bits of it, it's the rehearsal of the Pros and Cons show, the whole thing, but a rehearsal, and it's like a soundboard rehearsal, and... there's one of those for the wall as well, isn't there? Yeah. Well, I had two of those. And I had
and there's
those
a final
two wall
cut one,
tapes, the
there?
Demos at one time, but then they brought them out on those immersion things. But I think one of them was a bit different still. I must check that.
Is there a final cut one as well?
There is.
Yeah.
And there's a momentary lapse of reason one somewhere, but the quality's not as good. It's a bit iffy, It's still all right, but it's not up to what it should be.
Actually, going back, we've talked before about the Animals and Wish You Were Here. Yeah. So all we need now is Dark Side of the Moon, Obscured by Clouds, Meddle. Have you got all of those as well?
No.
All the later ones.
Yeah. Well, Dark Side of the Moon.
There's quite a lot of variations on that now, isn't there? Given the official releases as well.
There's a thing out at the moment, a box set with Meddle stuff on it, I've only just seen it.
Oh, is there?
But it's got all these things like different take of Fearless and all this, but I'm just wondering if it's all fiddled, because a lot of these box sets are like, somebody sits in a studio and messes around, takes the vocals out and puts something else in. Because
that's quite easy to do.
I think otherwise, even though the group doesn't always have this stuff to put out, for this to suddenly appear from Meddle, I don't believe that stuff's been sitting around like that for so. I mean, the only stuff I know about is from Moore, which probably, there was this girl from Cambridge, had 2 or 3 reels with outtakes.
Yeah.
But she...
that never got out, did it?
No, because she wanted a lot of money for them, which, fair enough, whatever, but nobody would pay her, and she disappeared into the mist as such. Of course, being More, which I love as an album, I would have, I would have liked to have got something like that. I don't know what she, how much she wanted for them, if it was particularly extravagant or not, but anyway. So...
back to 1984.
Yeah, so...
85, rather.
Pros and Cons was great, and then there was they toured again with it without Clapton, and very strangely that the guitarist to replace Clapton, which I think I'm right, he certainly was on the KAOS tour, which was a year or two later, was this guy called Jay Stapley, and Ren, used to be madly in love with him a year or two before, with this guy. They'd met at some concert in a pub in London, playing, in a pub concert,
Right.
And this other guy was the lead singer in this group, can't remember what they're called. But, playing in this little group there, suddenly he was like the lead guitarist for Roger Waters at that time, was a pretty big thing, But he disappeared as well after KAOS. Never heard of him again either, strange thing, But he's a good guitarist. And they also, do you know the album When the Wind Blows?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I think the side of Roger Waters on that, I think it's a great thing,
Oh, let's dig that out again. I've not listened to that in years.
There's a couple of bits on it where, because it's about the nuclear thing, and when it's blowing up and everything, I think they're really great. And a few people who've heard it agreed with me that they were well into it. I thought it's one of the best things he's done. But anyway, so being 1984, 85, you don't get any more these days. Like, people would go out and play on other things quite a lot from the Floyd, with the Floyd not being around. So, Gilmour played with Pete Townsend on White City,
Yeah.
And I think he was with him on the tour. He also did this benefit at the Royal Albert Hall.
Deep End Live or
That's
something
it.
like that. Yeah.
Yeah. And he did this Colombian benefit thing at the Royal Albert Hall, where I think he played with his group, yeah. And of course he did his own solo tour in '84, which was...
Did you go to that?
Yeah, sure, of course. 3 nights at Hammersmith Odeon, which were great, because...
I hope you taped them as well,
I
did
did
you?
every one of them, mate.
Have your tapes come out from these shows that we've been talking about so far, or are they...
Have they come out?
They come out. Have you shared them with the world?
No, not the Gilmour. I don't even...
Or the Waters ones?
To be honest, I can't even remember listening to the Gilmour ones, because I was doing so many gigs at the time, and travelling. I mean, I'd listen to something soon after the concert in the car, usually.
Yeah.
And it's really funny, because sometimes you tape a show, and then it was on 2 tapes, right? So after the gig, you come into the car, and I'd left one tape still, the second tape still in the tape recorder, and I haven't switched it off. And I'm listening to the first tape in the car, and the second tape is taping.
He's recording the
So I've got this recording of us in the car afterwards, so you're listening to the show. The first 3 nights at Hammersmith were great, because, I still think the first album from Gilmour is his best.
The 78 one?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And together with the best bits from the second LP, Love on the Air, was it? Well, that was the single. Anyway, there was 2 or 3 really hot tracks on that second LP. The rest wasn't as good, but anyhow, the 2 together provided a great show. He only played, I think, 2 Floyd tracks at the most, otherwise. Which I like it when they do their own stuff, if they're going to do a solo show.
Yeah.
So there was Gilmour, and he, like I say, he did the other things. And then there was a story at, for a bit of trivia, at Willie Wilson. He used to play in the Wall Band, and was he in Quiver or one? Anyhow, his birthday, we got it that he was going to be in this pub in Fulham having a bash, and Gilmour was playing, So we wandered down to this pub in Fulham on the night, and sure enough, they were all there. And Ren, this is the sort of thing she'd do. I didn't even know, she'd brought a Wall program with her, and she goes up to Gilmour, right, and says, "Will you sign it?" Yeah. And it's the last thing I would have said. I would have said, "Leave him alone," because he was, how should I say, you could tell he wasn't in a great mood, and he was wandering off all the time, coming out, and then she says, "You sign it?" And he said, "No." And she says, "Why not?" And he goes, "Because I'm a miserable D something D." And this went on about, she must have asked him 3 or 4 times. She wouldn't leave it, and each time he came back, and I think finally sort of gave up, and I don't know if he was going to play, but he didn't play off, and it didn't happen after that.
Didn't you say that Gilmour played pubs in Fulham in the 70s as well?
That wasn't me.
Wasn't you?
I don't think it was.
Ah.
I mean,
round that way, somewhere southwest London.
I've seen him in some clubs in Fulham. Being, in fact, going onto the collecting thing a couple of times. Again, you don't get this these days. With Nicky Horn on Capital Radio, he used to do some really good things, and I think it was pretty much through his show that came on. Nicky Mason wants to sell his "Wish You Were Here" gold disc, for charity, for his car thing. If you're interested, put a bid in or something. So this was probably in the late 70s. I probably was the only one to go. As I say, not many people were even collecting that stuff then, so I went for it and got it, and had to, went down to somewhere in Heathrow. I remember meeting them in a pub to get the disc and that. And got a letter. Then I made him, send a letter on headed notepaper and everything about it, which was good. Which I've still got somewhere. And then, this is what got me onto it. Same sort of thing. Later, I got a thing where Dave Gilmour was in Speakeasy or somewhere, which is where I've seen him once, I think, and talked to him a little bit about bootlegs, possibly. And I think John did as well. But he another thing like with Charity, it was obviously a bit later because he had a Wall gold platinum disc or something,
Yeah.
And he said, if you're interested, put a bid in. And somehow it came to, I had to ring this number, and who's at the end but Dave Gilmour, yeah.
Ah.
Yeah, and said, yeah, you can have the thing. And I had to go and pick it up in Wembley somewhere, I remember. But he wasn't there. Well, I'd hoped he'd be there when I went to go pick it up. But so anyhow, then there was a third one at some point where I spoke to Rick on the phone again about the same sort of thing, yeah.
Yeah.
And got another disc like that, and I can't even remember how that ended. Anyhow, that was the last of those. Just being a crazy collector at the time, you wanted a disc for every album, sort of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you're in the right place at the right time, obviously, as well.
Yeah. I mean, and soon after that, you started getting all these sort of, bogus discs from America and stuff from all over. The good thing with that time before was they were from the group anyway, and they were UK discs, which
completely bona fide. Yeah.
So
can I
how did I get onto all that?
Well, I got you distracted, but now we're distracted.
Yeah.
I've just got to distract you a bit more, if I may, because you did mention David Gilmour's first album being your favourite of his solo albums. Well, there's the Cliff Richard recordings.
Yeah.
What can you tell listeners about Cliff Richard and David Gilmour?
Well, only that... how much have you heard of that?
Just a little bit.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's just the tape of Gilmour, and I assumed, I probably said to you, I think it was probably when he was making the first album. It was that time. So, the band with him was the guys who were with him then, not the Floyd. And he does all these different takes on Hendrix, yeah.
Oh, of course, it's Hendrix as well, isn't it?
I think it's Along the Watchtower. Cliff Richard,
and he's a pretty good Cliff, isn't he?
It's great, and they do the kind of voice after, taking the P of Cliff Richard, and it sounds great, they're great takes, and there's one or two others, but
it's just one tape, isn't it?
It's one. It would probably fit 45 minutes, I think, something like that.
That sounds like an LP if I've ever heard one. And perhaps Sony should put that one out.
Too right. There was one, in Japan, I had the contact with Mr. Tosh Man, and we did the one on Animals, the two booties, but also did 3 or 4 in the 80s. The Wall, there was one double, and there was a triple from the 88 to 87. But we did one with Gilmour and Waters, like a double album, one probably saying that, now I'm thinking maybe that might have had a bit of Hammersmith on it, the Gilmour side. I'm not sure at all, but it was one side was Gilmour, one red disc, and one disc was Waters, Pros and Cons. There's a red cover, but I can't remember the title now. I'm only remembering all this because talking to Bruce the other day about Giant Barn Dance and that thing. But, the idea, I did have the idea at the time to do similar thing with the Cliff Richard tape on one, and the rehearsals for Pros and Cons on the other sort of thing. I mean,
I think people would like to hear that.
It'd be better then when, it was like still the best thing you could have apart from the Floyd was that sort of thing. But anyway.
Was there still much of a demand for those sorts of
I mean, at that time,
people were still buying?
Oh, yeah, big time, I mean, this is the thing, at that time, there was no Pink Floyd as such. I mean, and by then, it was pretty much splitting up, full stop, So, I mean, Roger Waters solo, Dave Gilmour solo, particularly Waters because of the big shows he'd just done with the Pros and Cons. I mean, there was quite a few. The Swedish guys did a couple of good boots from Swedish gigs, really nice. They always did nice sleeves, good quality tapes. And there was a few, and they sold like Floyd really at the time.
Interesting.
Yeah, because when we get to the KAOS period, I'll get on to the next sort of thing now, which is quite interesting. In 87, 88, 89 tours of the Floyd coming back,
versus Roger Waters in 87.
And we went out to New York and New Jersey for the first gigs to see this tour, and of course I'd found out that Echoes was opening the set, and I was so keen to see Echoes, the main thing, and by the time we got to New York, I think Tony Howard got us tickets for everything, or we got passes for that through him, because he came out with us on the plane, and Derek came out for those gigs, not all, but most of them, and we all went out together, and I remember sitting in. But they didn't go to that first gig in Madison Square. Well, Tony Howard was obviously there. The first gig in Madison Square Garden, sitting there, and they're playing the little sound bits at first, and ping ping, and I'm thinking, oh great, Echoes come on. Then they started, and I hadn't known that they'd changed it to Shine On a couple of gigs before, and I was so disappointed. I should have been so into it, first gig of the tour. Yeah, but it was a real letdown.
The first time you'd have heard Echoes since 1973.
Exactly.
Live.
Well, 75.
Oh, 75. I beg your pardon, Nebworth.
But I know what you're saying. I think that myself almost. Yeah. And really disappointed me. But again, I really, really enjoyed that tour in the end, the 87.
Did you?
Yeah, more so the 88 thing I went to. I mean, I'll tell you why in a minute, in Europe. Those gigs in New York and New Jersey, did three nights each. I enjoyed them. And funny story, in Madison Square Garden, sitting there, we went and got some really good seats for the second, third nights, and sat right near the front, and they had the guy rowing the boat, Science of Life, I think it's called, right at the beginning, and watching this, and suddenly I looked to my right, and the guy sitting next to me, the same guy who's in the boat there. I'm thinking, this is getting crazy here. Yeah. So that was all good, and after one of the shows there, they did this thing. We get this thing saying the Floyd are playing in this club after the show at the World Club or something in New York, So we raced down there in midnight or something, and it was some of the Floyd and
Gilmour
and some of the girls singers.
Okay.
And there is a boot out, I think Taylor, Fury and Floyd or something, from that saying, anyhow, they were jamming around, but, I think we missed the first bit of it, I think. But it was still exciting to be there, And so when I came back from one of the New Jersey gigs, and we came back on a bus once, and Derek was with me, and I see this sort of neon thing in the distance, Roger Waters, Radio KAOS, tickets, so much, and he was not even selling out a 2,000, 3,000 seat place there, across in that area.
He didn't have the name, did he?
Yeah, and we just seen 6 nights, Pink Floyd, 20,000 each night pretty much, sold out big time, And ironic, really, considering, it was a bit of a pretend band at the time, the Floyd, and Roger Waters couldn't, And he said even the same thing himself later on, And he was, in those early concerts he did with the Pros and Cons of that, he changed for the Pros and Cons already, that he didn't want to do solo stuff, Floyd stuff, but he had to change pretty quickly when the ticket sales weren't good enough, So that was interesting, and I'm just doing something.
Did you see Roger Waters while you were out there?
No, because it was after. It was quite a bit after.
Yeah,
tell you about the KAOS
left.
shows; they were great. But he only did big tour of America at these smaller places, and he didn't do Europe at all. And then he suddenly did these 2 nights at Wembley in '87, which I'll tell you about in a minute. But when I went to the last night in New Jersey, all the other guys had gone back to London, and I, been there 2 nights before, so I thought I knew the way okay, and I told this taxi driver in Manhattan, it was an Indian guy who didn't know his way. I said to him, do you know the way to Meadowlands in New Jersey? And he said, no, I know New Jersey, but not Meadowlands. I said, don't worry, I know the way, I've been there. That's what I told him. I thought I did. So we go over there, and I could see the gig there, and there used to be a bigger stadium, Meadowlands, next to it, but could never get the right road to get there, and every time we missed it, we have to go through a toll thing. And we went through this toll about 10 times, and each time this guy had to pay this taxi driver. So when we finally found the way after about 10 goes, I think his bill was about $200 and something, and I just chucked him $50, and that was the normal price, and just said sorry, bye, and ran in quickly. And that was the end of that little sojourn, yeah. But I did enjoy the shows, but didn't tell you about the '87 KAOS thing at Wembley.
Right.
He did 2 nights at Wembley, and really, I really liked the album anyway. I don't know if you know the album.
Pretty well, yeah.
I think it was interesting, and the show was... they set up with this, Jim Ladd, who was this DJ from America, is set up, and he kind of like treats it almost like he's in a radio show, and we'll play this now. And
innovative, wasn't it?
Yeah. And he mixed the old and the new together, kind of thing, which I don't know if it was worked or not, or whether it would have been better the other way or not, but I think it worked okay. Yeah. So he play, Welcome to the Machine, and then it'd go into Who Needs Information or from the KAOS. So in the show, they had this thing where there was a phone booth at the back set up, so part of the show, there would be a bit where you could phone Roger Waters on stage, and ask him questions, right? So on one of those nights at Wembley, there was about 5 questions. The first guy, he goes, I'm Billy from the Valleys, which is what that LP was about, So I'm thinking, this sounds weird already. Then the next guy comes on screaming, if you don't eat any meat, can I have some pudding, Roger? And it went on like this. And somebody asked Billy, was the name of the guy on KAOS, is Billy got eyes? And Roger's like wondering, what is he talking about? Do you mean eyes in the nose or eyes in his name? And this guy, I don't know whether it was all set up, but it was so crazy that each question. And the last guy comes on and very quietly goes, hello, Roger. And Waters kind of, hello, and this is Sid. And he goes, can I play with you again, Roger? I think he really wasn't sure for a minute, which I wasn't. It was like, what's going on here? And in the end, then Jim Ladd come in and said, I think we better call that the last call and that. But it was just so
just a
funny.
surreal moment.
So good. I listened to it. I wanted to check this. I listened the other day, I found the tape and listened to that. So good. They came back to Europe, did the Europe leg a year later, and that was, I really enjoyed. It was outdoor, bigger shows, and a lot was going on in Europe at the same time. The first gig I went to was in Berlin, and the wall was just coming down.
Beginning to that time, wasn't it?
It was just before, and when the concert was right by the wall virtually, and all these people from the east were looking over, trying try and see a bit of the concert, and it was really soon after that they broke the whole wall down thing, and that was exciting there. And we went to Mannheim the next day, and that was the same day as the football championships were played in European World Cup. I think it was the European were being played in Germany. And we went to see England play Russia in the afternoon in Frankfurt. And Mannheim's just across the road from there pretty much. So went to that football where my favourite player, Glenn Hoddle, had his last England cap, which should have been he should have had another 50, but anyway, yeah. And went to the gig at Mannheim in the evening, and then we went to, where else did we go? We went to, I think then we went off to Paris, and because they were trying to pick special places to do some of these shows, they got the Versailles, Palace of Versailles, which again made the concert really something special to have it in that surroundings. Yeah,
we're in 1988 here, aren't we? Yes.
Yeah, 88. Yeah. Just trying to think, there was somewhere else. I'm trying to think where we went, but anyway, yeah, Paris was really special, and I remember, the concerts were great, and they left these bars open till 5 or 6 in the morning around nearby, and you get back at 8 in the morning. It was really good night.
Did you still tape?
Yeah,
you kept that up, that kept that momentum.
Yeah, that's where
you once said to me that you felt you'd let yourself down if you didn't tape a concert that you were at.
Yeah, well, I was getting
and you
to that,
still had that instinct.
I think that was getting to the point after that tour that
you'd had enough.
Yeah, I mean, I still taped. I always taped Peter Gabriel, Floyd. I'd given up with Genesis by then. I mean, I did. I was saying to Genesis early on. I did sort of 3 tours in the 70s with Genesis, and in Europe, and sound checks and things. But yeah, they were just couldn't get into it later on like that. So, but I remember. I'm just trying to think. I remember taping a few things late 80s, early 90s, and that was it. I also felt at the time that everything was becoming available then, and I felt, before when I was taping, even the bands weren't taping their own shows half the time,
yeah.
And I felt by then they probably all were doing their own sort of soundboards or whatever, and video had come in. That was another thing with those Floyd gigs. It was a time when video had just come in, and
people were taking their 8mm cameras in there, weren't they?
The cameras were getting smaller but good. And there was a guy from Germany who started
You mentioned him to me once before. He built quite a collection, didn't he?
Yeah, he started going to all the main gigs and doing videos of them. 2 of which were the Floyd at, I think he certainly did London. That's after Paris. He did Wembley Stadium about a month later, 2 days. Again, playing Wembley Stadium to two days was a huge thing then, to fill that.
So that's where I enter with my first Pink Floyd concert.
Right, so Wembley Stadium.
August 1988,
That's
I think it was, wasn't
I thought it was really good. I mean, this is the other thing that happened on that tour. We were a bit naughty in that in these days you could get a little hard bit of cardboard, right? Cut off, they say, a cassette box. So, say from the Momentary Lapse of Reason, you cut off the cover, put it on this hardboard, put some cling film over it, put Access All Areas, and it looks really good.
And it worked.
Worked all through that Floyd tour in Europe when I needed it. I mean, I didn't use it always, but I used a lot of it, especially those outdoor gigs, And Wembley Stadium, I used it both days, and I walked through, where the 3-4 police lines and where the players used to come out for the football and everything. It was great, and I really enjoyed. But the funny thing with that was, having used it for many nights, I went to, the last gig was at Main Road, Manchester City, up in the thing, and we went out to that, which was filmed by that guy as well. And I went into this thing and showed the pass I'd made, and waltzed in, and the guy said, "Hey, hold on, I want to see that." And I said, "Sorry, I've got to get to the mixing desk quick." So bye, and ran in. He sussed it, I think.
Yeah.
The first time, but that was, I'd got in and I was off, and that was it. And on the last gig.
So what happened to that guy's films?
Well, right. He from Germany and got busted.
Oh.
Yeah.
What, filming?
No,
at the time, or
no,
did
later,
somebody?
He was I'm presuming he was selling the films all over, and he got
copying them to VHS and putting them in the post to people.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know exactly, but I'm pretty sure that's how it ended. And he'd done a lot of shows. Yeah, I mean, we're not talking just Floyd. You know, a lot of he did Prince. I remember Floyd. Lots of people. Yeah, and
so he lost all his originals, did he?
Yeah, but you know, the good thing was that it's another thing. Like my audio tapes, that the videotapes, which are a real bane in my life because you know the space they take up.
Yeah,
I still got boxes of these things that
VHS cassettes.
that I want to put down onto something that takes less space. I've offered a couple of people if they can do it, the work. I'll pay them to do it. Yeah.
Well, I'll volunteer. I can do that for you.
I'll bring your box each time.
I've got the stuff to do that, and I think there's quite a lot of interest.
You know, there's probably all sorts of stuff on some. I mean, they're not just all music, but there's some. Really interesting bits probably as well.
Well, there was a long period when all we had was VHS.
Yeah.
And quite a lot was caught and is irreplaceable.
You know, there was you know, things like the Venice concert they did on the Water later.
Yeah.
Which I thought about going to, but was told forget it. It'd be difficult. Yeah.
It was very dangerous. I gather.
Yeah, it was all not easy. So.
Do you have much on tape or film? There's nothing. I mean, other these 80s ones we're talking about at the moment. There's nothing earlier out there.
Well, I mean,
is there?
You know, I did have all these things from 70s and that on videotape, but the quality was pretty.
What sort of things?
Well, probably things that no doubt, like from maybe one
Hollywood Bowl,
Hollywood Bowl
like
72, and there was a 75 thing. But really, I think it was really poor. I'm sure it's better stuff now.
Where did you get those from?
From whoever in America, people, no doubt.
Yeah.
I mean,
let's do it. Let's make some copies and see whether there's some interesting stuff there.
Yeah, I know, certainly, all sorts. I did get some good stuff from us.
GPS signal lost.
Shut up. Talk to you later.
Yeah.
This girl in the BBC, the Israeli girl, actually, she worked in the BBC for a while, and I got these sheets of. I might have shown you. No, I didn't show you. I found them. The amount of stuff that they had on the Floyd in the early years in the BBC was amazing. Yeah, and.
What do you mean, recordings that they still possess?
I mean, well, of course you did the whole BBC,
I did the BBC,
but I'm talking about
radio.
video stuff,
right?
Visual stuff as well.
Stuff they kept.
And, I have got a list somewhere that she gave me. Anyway, the thing with the BBC stuff was it was on some weird system.
You
it was
mentioned
virtually
before.
impossible to get out there. You couldn't do anything with it unless it was copied there for you.
The BBC had to make their own copy of it.
And she did pull me out some John Lennon thing, an interview there that nobody had ever seen that was interesting. So no doubt, it could have been some really good stuff in there that would have been nice to get out. But anyway, didn't happen. But yeah, so that guy, obviously got those 88, 89 gigs from him. Because then there was. From that tour, we came back to Dortmund, did a few nights there, 3 nights inside. That was different again, which was good. But 89, there was, they did Docklands Arena, the first time they did.
I didn't go to that.
Yeah, well, it was not memorable at all. Yeah, I found. I mean, it was 5 or 6 nights. I did, no doubt, went to all of them, and but. They don't leave any sort of memory really. The venue was very sort of low, and not great sort of. How shall I say?
Atmosphere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Poor for atmosphere and.
Well, I think that. I mean,
they
become very predictable by that point.
Well, that was the other thing as well. I mean, the initial. The fact that I enjoyed the early gigs, it was new and and I did like.
You'd seen it so many times.
Yeah, things like Sorrow. I mean, that was probably for me. Gilmour doing Sorrow at first was like really rip roaring. Probably the best thing I've seen him play when he really let go on that. But having then seen the things in '88 outside at those venues was special because of how it was in a way. But then it was pretty much done. In '89, those shows there, they just didn't do it for me. And the venue, was new. I'd seen Bowie and someone else there as well, and none of them just worked there. It was poor atmosphere, and I don't think the place lasted long.
No.
I mean, it was the only, they were just building everything there anyway. So
it was a rapid expansion, wasn't there, of what you could go and do in the docks around that time.
We, with the Floyd and that, you no doubt went to the 94 shows, yeah.
I did, but can I pull you back to 1990?
Yeah.
Did you go to
Nebworth.
Roger Waters?
Nebworth.
It was Nebworth, of course.
Nebworth was great. I didn't want to see the rest of the bands, I just want to see the Floyd, knowing what Nebworth was like, getting into it. I actually got Gary to go with me. I drove up there about 9 at night, parked the car by Nebworth House and just walked in, somehow got in right near the front. And I was back home about 1 o'clock, midnight, after they played, And I really enjoyed that show. It was very windy, if I remember. And you went?
No, I didn't go to that one. Go. I was going to ask you about Roger Waters at the Wall in Berlin, whether you were at that.
Well, that's another one to come, yeah.
Yes.
But
that's 1990,
Nebworth was good. And what was really interesting at Nebworth, they put these films on just before the show itself of the old Floyd. There was most of the stuff one had seen, but then there was this stuff from sort of Amagama time. Never seen it.
Yeah. And that got interesting, didn't it? Because that VHS came out on a VHS tape, didn't it?
That's right. Yeah.
People were selling that in Camden Town very soon afterwards.
Probably, yeah. I'm sure, yeah.
It wasn't anything to do with you then, that getting out at the time.
No, it wasn't.
Because it was quite interesting.
I wouldn't have anything to do with anything
when
like
you said that you sat next to the man who was rowing the boat, because he features in the 1990 Nebworth films as well, doesn't he? That's part of the footage. But it was quite an interesting little film.
Yeah, it was good.
And it was the first example, I think, of some of Nick Mason's home videos coming out as well, wasn't it?
No, it was really, I was really surprised, when I went there, it was like, not expecting much here, and it was, that was kind of a bit of a highlight almost, And then the set was all right, and they did, funnily enough, Sorrow, I think they'd played that there, where he really let go on a bit as a guitar thing. But the Berlin Roger Waters show.
Yeah, I was at that as well.
Yeah, well, you remember how just trying getting out there was difficult for me.
Yeah, I took a coach.
Yeah, well, I wanted to, couldn't get out there till the day somehow, and I hadn't even booked a flight, nothing. And when I tried to get a flight on the Saturday, it was impossible. You had to go somewhere else, kind of, and get it from there to Berlin. Because, what was it, 200,000 or something?
That was, conservative estimate,
I
think.
It was
more,
the biggest
wasn't there?
thing
for
a rock show.
We had tickets, but there was no point, was there? Because people were just walking in as they wished.
Well, he also did, I only found this out later, because in the end, somehow we got a flight, right at the last minute, basically. And he did 1 or 2 rehearsal shows almost the night before or something, and or after another one. Anyway, I think he did another show after, because, as you know, on the night of the show, there was a bit of a mess up at the beginning, particularly.
It went rather wrong, didn't it? The sound was terrible.
Yeah, and there was 1 or 2 other things. Somehow it was a bit, reminded me a bit of Nebworth 75. Because if it doesn't go right at the beginning, it kind of leaves a bit of a thing on it, and
that was problematic as well, wasn't it?
That happened at Nebworth, and still the problem there was they should have started in the dark anyway. Would have made a huge difference, because the first set was the more interesting, I think, anyway. And still, but Berlin. Difficult, but
I thought it was menacing as well.
Yeah,
I didn't like the crowd at all. I thought that it was
the only thing I remember about Berlin that it was worth going to for me was, they gave out those pink masks.
Oh yeah,
and
I've got mine somewhere.
Yeah, well, I picked up a few off the floor later, and also
I looked at them, but I didn't.
Yeah, well, most were crushed, but anyway, when one bit in the wall where everyone's meant to, they've all got these masks, and we did get quite near the front in the end. We turned round when and the whole lot were all, you know, with these pink masks.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. To see that just for a minute was worth going there for, because the rest of it was,
bit iffy, wasn't it?
Still, I mean, when you look at who was there afterwards, you know, there were some, you know, great people playing together there.
Like you described earlier, it was a visual spectacular, wasn't it? And by that stage, it was mainly about the visuals.
Yeah.
Because
I mean,
the music was so-so.
It was there for the...
It was an experience, unforgettable.
And to sort of hammer in the wall coming down in a way, you know, the whole thing. It was on where the gig was right where the wall was, sort of.
Yeah, very symbolic.
Yeah. So
my memory at the end of that was I got separated from somebody who I'd made a friend of on the coach, and so I was in the pitch black.
Yeah.
And I had to try and find the coach in amongst 200,000 people.
Yeah, I can imagine.
And my sense of direction is not my strong point, and I eventually got there. I don't know how I managed it.
You know, but to be able to go there on a coach and that was a newish thing then, because when those Dortmund shows in '88, Derek came over on a coach with his mate, I remember, to one of them. And that was sort of that time, late 80s, was the first time that these companies started advertising rock concerts in Europe. You know, get a coach from England there. And you know, you get pay for a coach and the gig and etc. together. You know, there was nothing like that up till the late 80s. So, you know, that's quite good that you could even do that.
It was feasible. I got it from Victoria.
And Berlin is like a long stretch. I mean, when Berlin used to be in the east, I drove there in the early 80s when it was like that, and you could only go down one road. You get to the border, there's two tanks up there looking very menacing, big tanks.
I took pictures of the tanks when I was there because they were still out. I don't know if they are nowadays, but
well, this was, I think, especially in the days of the Eastern Bloc and Russia and at that time. And you could drive down the one road for 40 kilometres an hour, and it was the limit. And it was a long way. I mean, you had to do that for 3 or 4 hours. And when you got to the other end, you have to kind of go through customs again into the west, but through the east first. And they'd go, you've broken the limit twice at 50, and you've changed seats here, and we want 200 marks, please, Deutschman.
Wow.
You know, they'd try and fleece you each time.
And
be looking under the cars and everything, you know, for people smuggling. It was
it's 35 years ago, very different world.
I mean, it was going to Berlin when it was like that was actually more exciting because it was like this island in the east. Very interesting.
I felt quite a strong sense of being somewhere important in history, walking around Potsdamer Platz. Filthy. I got filthy that day. It's a dust bowl, wasn't it?
That's right. I did a fair. I did a record fair there in late 70s, probably the first fair in Berlin, and be about 1980, 79, because Ren was working as a courier then, and she somehow, I don't know how it worked, but she got a flight to Berlin as a courier, and I said, I will take these 4 boxes of records with you for the record fair, because in those times, you know, like all these guys now go to Utrecht, and because it's no longer part of Europe, you know, England's no longer Europe, then you know, if you go to somewhere like that, they want you to either pay duty on every record, and you don't know if you're going to sell it, or provide a list of everything, and then it's checked on the way back. So it's huge, long-winded stuff. So when I went there that time, I was hoping she could sneak them all in, but when I got there, I went on the evening myself later, and I come to customs, I can see my 4 boxes sitting there. And so I said to the guy, what's the problem? And he said, well, you've got to, you know, have a list of every record or pay the duty on all of them. I said, look, it's 9 at night, 10 at night, I've got to do this thing at 8 in the morning or whatever, you know, I can't do that now. And I said, do you like music? And he said, yeah, you know. And I said, well, what are you into? And he said, I like Blondie, you know, she was just Debbie Harry. And so very lucky for me, I had 3 or 4 Blondie 12-inching singles with her on the front there. So I pulled them out, and I said, "Do you like these?" Yeah, and he said, "Yeah, it's nice." Boing.
That worked.
Have them. And he goes, "Right, 10 marks. You're all right. You can go."
Oh, brilliant!
That was the way you had to work then, and it was good. That was a good Berlin fair in those days, and that's where I met Knitts. Because he'd been gone for a year or two then.
Robbie.
Yeah.
Knitts, yeah.
And he suddenly appeared like with this huge trailer full of, real mess for records everywhere.
Yeah.
And did a fair, probably the second fair there. And that's how I ended up, reconstituting the thing and him turning up in London.
In the story you told before about him
with
dumping
all the
his car.
records and the Mercedes.
Yeah, that he...
And never to be seen again after.
Yeah.
So, but so did you go to 94? What did you?
I went to Earl's Court once in 94. I wasn't impressed by 98.
Yeah. Well,
88 rather. I quite enjoyed the experience going to the Waltz. So once in Earl's Court.
Yeah.
Already by that stage I was stuck in the past.
Right.
I needed to have gone.
Well, no, of course.
20 years before.
I went
or 25 years before even.
90, beginning of 94. I quite liked the record.
It was better.
Yeah. And somehow this friend who's very well in with the band and everything said, "You fancy going to Paris? There was Chantilly, another nice place. This was before it came to London. Yeah." And I said, "Yeah, well, if you get us a free thing, of course I'll go." Yeah. So he said, "Yeah, we'll drive down." So I drove them together. 3 of us, him and Ren and me, we went driving down. We got to Dover. He'd forgotten his bloody passport.
Oh.
So I don't know how. I remember sitting there for a couple of hours in Dover. Somehow he managed to make it that he didn't have to go back to London. And we got across there and went to the Chantilly, which it was great because again we had this. In Paris you got these beautiful. What do you call these places? They've got where you can stay. Really nice sort of bit.
Like a boutique hotel type.
Well, they've got a name in French. Anyway, very nice place. It was the same place as the crew was staying. Yeah, not the group, but at least the crew. And we had our own sort of little place, like a little house at the back. Really nice. And it was a kind of special place to play at. Yeah. But the reason I'm telling you all this is that. We went to the 2 shows, which, I struggled a bit. I was expecting more, because I liked the album. But anyway, after the second show, the last night there, something they'd apparently been doing already on that leg, they'd, make a kind of stage in the mixing desk area.
Yeah.
Sort of after the gig and start playing like a gig at midnight, whoever wants to play, mainly the guys from the road crew,
Yeah.
And so we got into that, and they played from midnight, 1 o'clock till about 3 or 4, and everybody, Steve O'Rourke, most of the band came down at some point and did a bit. I don't know, one of them didn't do it, but most of them did a little bit, and Gilmour had just married Polly Sampson,
Polly Sampson,
probably the night before or the second night, and we were sitting outside and they came past at 2 a.m. and sort of said good night, which was, very sort of well-mannered of them, not knowing us. And that was like, you see, that was sort of, it was special seeing that extra thing.
Yes.
And
more special than the concert by the sound of things.
Yeah, exactly, totally. That's the thing. And the playing of some of those guys from the road crew, they could play. I mean, if one of the band couldn't play one night, 1 or 2 of those guys could definitely substitute, I reckon. Yeah. So that, I mean, when it came to London, I wasn't very well at the time, and I had some problem with my breathing, and I went to probably 5 or 6 nights, but I went to that first night when all the seating collapsed.
You were present.
It was cancelled.
Yeah.
Yeah, right behind us almost, I remember.
Yeah.
And I mean, the other nights were all right, but I think it's unfair, you know, I just wasn't feeling great, and so
I wasn't feeling it with those concerts. I remember vividly at my side was all these men just wanting to shout, "We don't need no education," with their beers flying around all over the place as they were singing it, and I thought, well, I don't think I belong here. I don't need it. It was all right.
Yeah.
It was more competent.
Yeah.
But I enjoyed Wembley in '88 in some ways because I thought the light show was great. I enjoyed that outside.
Really good. And the Manchester gig as well at the time. But
seeing the pig coming over and all of that. But I thought I could take
something
it or leave
was
it.
Not, like I say, it could be me anyway, but just didn't do a lot for me that night. And considering some of those tracks on the record come over really well, I thought, but I was expecting more of them when they did them live, but but nobody, you know, if you hadn't seen Pink Floyd, you know, before then, no doubt, it would have been a very enjoyable night.
Yeah.
I mean, how many nights did they play there? 20 nights or something?
I don't
something
remember
ridiculous. I mean, I know the first gig there wasn't 20, but a lot. I remember going up to the Earl's Court all the time to get tickets for people. It's funny because, you know, I'd always be the one who'd get all tickets, you know, all the time, and then have to get them for people and that, and you'd always end up with tickets that, you know, 2 extra that nobody wanted, and I keep a lot of them, and luckily, you know, 20, 30 years later, they were worth more to sell on the collector's market.
Yeah. Somebody would want a mint unused ticket.
Yeah, and I told you,
untorn.
Brighton Dome 1972, which I really, at the time, if you'd have told me that I bought 2 tickets for that, I didn't remember it. And I lost all my tickets for sort of Earl's Court, Rainbow. I couldn't find that era and other people. And I found in the gallery near me, next to me, about a year or 2 ago, this little train spotting book I had, and in the back were all these tickets.
Kept flat.
Yeah, and I found 2 Brighton Dome front row tickets for 72, mint, of course, not used. So, you know, I kept one of them and sold one for about 150 quid, which, you know, was a lot more than 75 pence or whatever it was.
Absolutely is. And I think if you want to sell the other one, I think you could get quite a lot more than 150 pence.
I wanted to keep one of them anyway, but I couldn't remember getting it. But I think at the time, I know I did get a few tickets when I was at Reading then at university, and I was having a breakup with somebody and had a few tickets, and then we were going through some trauma and just didn't make it, you know. I had a couple of Bowie tickets for Oxford, I remember. The same thing happened, but I got, you know, sold those now later and got much better than going.
Than the face value.
Yeah, I found another 2 unused for Richie Havens, which, you know, I don't think I'd get much for either.
No, I don't think many people
remember better going to the gig at the time.
Yeah. So we've got right way through 1994 now.
Yeah.
Is that a good time to draw a line under it?
I think it could be, because I think that's where I drew the line. Yeah.
And you've been to see stuff many occasions since, haven't you? But all good.
There you go.
That stop button?
Okay.